Hello everyone, this is an update in regards to a video I put out a few months ago in regards to, are you paper handing Jasmy 1787 KPI target? All these things sound absolutely nuts, but we have an update in regards to this. Stick around to the end of the outline. If you hold Jasmy, you really want to hear about this. And if you're new to the concept of Jasmy and you want to learn more, but you haven't been getting that research that you've been wanting, I hope I can accomplish that for you. Consider smashing that like. If you're brand new, I understand you have to earn your subscription, but you're going to want to hear this because at the end of the day, Jasmy can hit some of these metrics off of biometrics alone. Yes, you heard me right. Biometrics alone will do some big things for Jasmy. So stick around to the end of the outline. You'll be glad that you did. Thanks for joining me here on this platform. Let's get into the material. So the first thing I want to get into, basically speaking, is this right here. And this is from Harasan. And it is this. What is he talking about here? Well, he specifically mentions some of these key things in the findings. And that is, since 2021 at TGE, he has always wanted to create a token that would be accepted, of course, by institutional investors and investment. And for me personally, when I see things like this, it makes me really glad that when we talk about some of these coins and tokens that follow the smart money, that's where it's at. Again, if you're new to this or you just need a refresher, it's that smart money. And I'm going to show you guys and remind you guys and show you some new research actually that will connect Jasmy to that bigger picture, those institutions, so on and so forth, following the bigger, smarter money. Because at the end of the day, there is no way we're going to achieve these crazy market caps without those institutional connections, period. So I got a little bit more about this. And so he goes on to mention that the materials are no different than they were at the time. Jasmy started the business during the ICO boom. Think about that. After the dawn of time, they have been committed to being authentic and genuine. The second act is about to begin, right? That's the next big step, that layer 2. AI times deepen, aka Janction. They of course have a vision about this. I'm just going to share a little bit about this from a bigger screenshot, and that is maximizing the value of personal data, but it's to grow this, right? Two main points that Hara wanted to, get all of us to be on the same page about, and that is maximizing the value of personal data, and of course shaping the markets in the medium and long term through market entry by, again, institutional investors. That's why I'm bringing that up. So how do we go about maximizing this value of personal data? And more importantly, how do we truly shape the market like it says? So it does have a reference in regards to the expansion of scale of their business based on actual demand for the Jasmy coin. And again, when you see this outline that we're really going to get into, I'm going to give you guys some solid research to talk about supply and demand forces, because it doesn't matter if it's crypto or stocks. That is what causes these things to, let's face it, go to the moon, as everybody would say, or, cause crazy parabolic action that we all are yearning for, right? So this post from Vince from Jamla, shout out to him, he mentions Japan open national ID to integration with digital wallets, biometric update Jasmy. Now we've seen a lot of the hoopla in regards to Jasmy and the concept of specifically what, like this, and this is shared from biometricupdate.com, and it's Japan opens national ID integration with digital wallets. It says, my number coming to Apple Wallet next year. Now, we got some big news in regards to Jasmy and the concept of the whole notion of, man, Apple and Jasmy, is that a real thing? And then at first some people were like, nah, not really. And then, like even me, I covered it a few months before all that big news broke out, and that was not to toot my own horn, but I actually believe that there was a real connection through the research and so on. And I cited other people's research to try to back up my own hypothesis. And then of course big news broke roughly back in I would say April and so on. And then people were trying to find the interviews and like, oh, okay, Tim Cook and so on. Oh, okay, that might actually be a real thing. So this delay, we've been there, we've done that. We're speculative on some of these things, but it does seem like it's solid. But is that it? Is that all we have? Because at the end of the day, I am more impressed with some of the other things other than just Apple. And I understand that Apple's a huge name, right? I mean, that in itself is a huge catalyst that can pump the price. But when we talk about utility in motion, and I know I wear that term out a lot, that is where it's at. That's why you invest in, these utility tokens or utility coins that actually supposedly supposed to, have a function. Okay, I'm gonna take you into a little bit more about this because it is crucial that we all understand this. So I'm just gonna elaborate a little bit more about this. Again, this is from June 3rd, and again, talking about the whole thing of that Apple wallet, talking about the whole thing of Japan with my number card, and we've done many deep dives about this, right? But this one, Mannix palm scanner, this kind of caught my eye, and I thought I would take you guys over to the actual Mannix site, and they have great research that's worth pointing out. So there is so many things connected to biometrics and this bigger picture. For one, August 6th, guys, let's face it, this is only 4 days ago. Mastercard patent. Yeah, Mastercard patent. Why is that so big? Well, because they filed the whole thing of being able to secure biometric templates for enrollment. Why is that important? Well, as we know, when a person creates a fingerprint template by pressing their finger against a biometric scanner, the scanner is generally not capable of telling whether each scan is of the same finger, of the same person for that matter. In unattended biometric enrollment situations, this creates a risk of fraud with one of the people whose biometrics were combined with another person's, basically posing as them for authentication. Again, aka fraud. According to a new patent application from, of course, Mastercard, the patent filing for, quote, systems and methods for preventing biometric infringement, of course, has been published by the United States Patent and Trademark Office. So when you see some of these statements about current biometric sensors and registration process cannot be determined with, the single user performing a biometric registration process or more than one user performing it. Again, think about it. Wouldn't it be a lot easier and more efficient to have a mechanism to have that come all into place? Yes, absolutely. Enter in Jasmy. And to address the problem, like it says, Mastercard researchers propose extracting 2 or more elements of the biometric feature from an initial scan. Think about that. We're going to get into some of these key things, and that is basically this. You're going to hear more talk about, for example, what was referred to as 1 key and 2 key, and shout out to Icy Amphibian. He covered that in a deep dive on Reddit. If you haven't seen that, we've done some deep dives. You can go check out his research. But it's how we extract some of these things, and more importantly, where that biometric data gets located and hosted. Is it on a cloud? Well, the answer is yes, but it's all these ones tied into it. Talks of Fujitsu, even with them, right? The company remains active in payment cards, and it beats the drum, as it says, of approvals for fingerprint-enabled Mastercard. Mastercard wants to stay around. They understand that there's a big thing going on with crypto and DLT, blockchain, and so on. But they're here to innovate, right? They embrace a lot of these technologies. So that's Mastercard. Do I have anything else for you? Absolutely. As I take you over to here. Again, from biometricupdate.com, I'm going to start using this site more often because they got great recent news, I guess you could say. Goes on to mention that China starts national digital ID trial barely a week after releasing draft plan. How many times have we been talking about Japan, and we've been talking about digital IDs and talking about Europe, right? Even like with Quant. So, been there, done that. A little bit more talk about China. I'm going to harp on this for just a little bit. China has launched a trial of national digital identity systems across 81 apps just days after the release of his draft regulations for public comment. While feedback period runs until August 25th, they have this whole thing of gathering, opinion, I guess you could say, and trying to get the gist of how people react to this. But in regards to the global platform, the registration process requires identity document verification using national ID card matched against face biometrics. Again, face biometrics, so many different forms of biometrics, whether it's your finger, whether it's, through your iris, eyes, face. I mean, all sorts of different things. But mobile phone check, complete, and a password has been created. An online number and digital certificate, of course, will be issued. They have other citations here that I definitely want to get into for a brief moment, but it states that the July 26th release of the draft provision by the MPS and Cyberspace Administration in China stoked fears that a national digital ID would lead to total surveillance state. People pointing this out in the past that, in China, this is where you have, real problems with centralization because, the people feel as though that the government regulators would be able to track every detail of a person's online life, and why, be all bold about this. But the point is, even they recognize, even from a centralistic point of view, that, digital IDs, where it's at. So even China in the mix, you better believe they're going to be part of the mix. How about this other particular one, okay? This is, again, from the same site, Biometric Update. This is August 2nd, pretty recent. Idemia, if I'm pronouncing it right, wins contract to supply multi-biometric system to the IRS. Some people say, well, yeah, it's a little bit more of the control aspect of things, but again, the IRS even recognizes that they want things to be immutable. They want things to be verifiable and immutable, but they even announced on August 2nd, again, just a few days ago, that they intend to award a sole source, think about that, sole source contract to Idemia Identity Security USA for its multi-biometric identification system, MBIS hardware and software. We talked about in the past, it's not so much of just Apple, guys. Think about the bigger picture. It's the ones that are indirectly involved. Shout out to our brother Rob Mass, Crypto Future. We've done some collaborations, Jesse and so on, and we have been more impressed about the indirect connections for Jasmy's utility being used, because that is where it's at. So this is the United States, and for a multi-biometric identification system, you better believe that there could be a connection there. Some people say that's speculative, but at the end of the day, we even know that when it comes to Jasmy, they have some exclusive technology, and guess what? They have expanded to have an office over in Silicon Valley. So they are having a mission to expand not just, Southeast Asia, but also to come to the United States. And that has been verified. And we have done research about it. So the contract requires Idemia to provide suppliers for a period of 1 base year and 4-year options. So that's them, right? And it even goes into talk about the cloud. But this part, this is where I want to pound it home a little bit in regards to the Microsoft connection, because we're going to come full circle in that as well. So MBIS Cloud covers all the biometric functionalities, I should say, and provides forensics experts with future for cloud solution for post-event analysis hosted on Microsoft Azure Government or Amazon Web Services Government and MBIS Cloud platforms. And it's designed to meet the U.S. government's requirements for data security and continuity of operations. So that's really interesting to see some of this and some of the standards that are involved, right? So people stating that U.S. was not going to get on board with this, absolutely they're going to get on board. And if anything, you can appreciate some of these connections, and we're going to elaborate a little bit more about this. So I'm going to take you to another one, because I want you guys to understand there's a bigger picture here when it comes to supply and demand. So Metropolitan Police Force, they increase use of facial recognition amid UK anti-immigration riots. And again, what does it cite once again? Well, guys, think about it. Yeah, it's now the 10th, 2 days ago. Biometrics commissioner, he resigned, but police live facial recognition and use, like it says. London's Metropolitan Police are ramping up their efforts to combat criminal disorder by utilizing retrospective facial recognition. Why? Because they have an approach to it. They have, in a statement, that they have more than 1,300 public order officers ready to deploy across London, England, at least on the 8th, in addition to thousands already working in their communities. Quote, we will be using retrospective facial recognition to help officers identify those criminals. They're doing disorderly conduct and so on. They've done over 400 arrests, but the bottom line is if they recognize biometrics, they could also recognize that it has to be stored. That data needs to be properly stored, and if anything, protected. They can understand the bigger picture when it comes to blockchain and DLT just as much as we can. All right, so that's that. That's the police force and some of these other examples. What about some of the other things? Like, you know, I remember doing that collaboration again with Rob and Jesse, and one of the things that we talked about specifically was the Japanese military. Well, what about the United States military? And more important, what about the U.S. Army? Look at this. U.S. Army moves closer to fielding next-gen biometrics collection. This is posted on August 2nd. And they go on to mention that they recently completed field tests of its 28.3 million next-generation biometric collection capability. Now, you know, 28.3 million is not in the billions or trillions and so on, but again, get so many of these examples, and next thing you know, you have a huge conglomerate of all sorts of organizations, whether it's the military or it's UK police, so on and so forth, that are gung-ho biometrics. Look at this. Next generation biometric collection capability, which is called NXGBCC, hardware and software at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, under the Fort Leonard Wood Soldier Touchpoint Initiative. The goal is to collect important feedback from soldiers on the effectiveness of still in development of this particular system. The soldiers complete tasks involving mobile biometric collections centered around a laptop for stack operations. Now, here's the thing. How many times have you seen those examples from Jasmy, especially when it comes to the, you know, Avita laptops and so on, or the Sony Vaios? You know, that's what I'm talking about, right? So these are examples. All right, what about, you know, news about when it's going to be? How soon? Well, expected to be filled in 2025. And this program will replace the Army's biometric automated tool set. Yeah, which the Army says is old and obsolete. I mean, again, this pounds it home even that much more, the concept of this supply and demand, right? Here's their opinion on whether NXGBCC meets their mission needs is not important, but it's the feedback that really matters. This particular guy named Church emphasized, adding that the testing was a major milestone for the program and a great opportunity to get invaluable soldier feedback. Okay. Interesting. So this thing of NXGBCC collects, matches, and stores biometric identities and is comprised of 3 components: a mobile collection kit, static collection kit, local trusted source, according to that. And that the local trusted source provides additional analysis capability to assist and decide and act activities. Again, when we talk about the bigger picture for Jasmy, is what's indirectly involved that really gets me excited, right? And it should, you know, if you're not excited, that's okay too. But for a lot of us, you already get the picture. You already understand that, guess what? This is a big deal. So, not all the time do I cite the World Economic Forum, but I do want to share this as well. This is also good stuff. World Economic Forum says data standards, ethical AI, and diaspora are the keys to the future digital economy of countries in the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Now, we understand that's where Jasmy is really going to shine. But more importantly, we understand that when it comes to the WEF, guys, think about it. Don't get twisted. You know I mention this guy all the time, but Genki Oda, you know, he's part of that panel, if you will, right? He has that plug and connect because of SBI Japan, but more importantly, BitPoint, also his Bijit connections, and of course that Jasmy connections. How many times we share that picture of him sitting right next to Kazamasa Sato, right? Sato-san, I should say. And that's a big thing. I mean, that connection will always be one of the biggest partnerships or connections for Jasmy. Hopefully they'll never ruin that relationship because he is a big driving force, and especially when it comes to you know, Japan's version of the SEC, right? And the FSA and so on. So there's that. Getting into a little bit more about this, I'm going to jump over to here, okay? And basically speaking, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations hoping that ASEAN, Digital Economy Framework Agreement, will do what? Harmonize digital economies across the 10-country bloc. Now it says, policies can help digital transformation and the differences across the region and different regulatory regimes are posing challenges. Of course. But the point is, you will see that they are still trying to get things to go all the way up to 2025. And again, these references to like 2026, especially when it comes to KPI targets of Jasmy. But it's the collaborations, guys. Don't overthink it. Thailand, Singapore's work on cross-border payments and the prompt pay of pay now systems. Well, one of those pay now systems in Japan especially is BitPoint. Those ATMs. And if you haven't seen those deep dives, you owe it to yourself because those are touch screen. And again, that guy I was talking about, Genki Oda, was that plug and connect to that. ASEAN, digital economy, estimated to grow from approximately 300 billion to almost 1 trillion by 2030, and that's just from ASEAN. That basically means Southeast Asia, guys. That sector alone, okay, according to the WEF, data and research, okay. So we're gonna get into a little bit more about this. I'm gonna share this with you as well. This is good stuff. Singapore is always part of the mix, are they not? We've seen countless examples of Singapore. So Singapore's passport-less immigration clearance using what? Facial and iris recognition. I was talking about this earlier. This is posted August 6th. Lots of new news in regards to biometrics and in this month. So Changi Airport in Singapore implemented facial and iris recognition to verify travelers' identities. To do what? Allow for passport-less immigration clearance. Again, they want things to be, easy, user-friendly. Make things where there's not like a pain of the old system. The Immigration Checkpoints Authority has begun phase rollout of the system. And they provided this from IDEMIA. I remember I mentioned them just a couple minutes ago. But, this rolled out August 5th. And basically, it's for arriving Singapore residents. All immigration checks at Changi will be completed without passports by September. Think about this, guys. When we talk about some of these places in the world that are your hubs for embracing decentralization, Singapore has always been part of that mix, right? Just like with the UAE. But what happens when this becomes a mainstream thing, especially when it comes to, like 2030, you can kind of see where this is going. A little bit more. Let's take it to this next part. This is good as well. This is also, of course, from biometricupdate.com. So let's talk a little bit more about this. Biometric update, I should say. Biometric enabled seamless travel booming. Again, seamless. That market to make 4.6 billion by 2029. Good says travel offers blueprint in how to digitize identity. Okay, how to. What about the one that already has a solution for it? Again, guys, if you're new to all this, if you wonder why Jasmy had its major pumps a few months ago, was the things that were indirectly tied to Jasmy, especially when it came to semiconductors, right? So, crucial to understand that. But basically, when we get more into this, especially the travel industry, it mentions some specific things, and it's that they are at the forefront of digital identity adoption globally. 208-page travel identity report, and it's in regards to this consulting firm from Good Intelligence outperforming the other sectors for growth with a forecast of CAGR of 22% over the 6-year period of 2024 to 2029. That's incredibly bullish. All right. As we get more further down to this, it talks about how they want to protect borders and verify travelers' identity through air, rail, and sea journeys. Well, I mean, been there, done that, especially when it comes to what was mentioned in the Jasmy white paper to solve some of these things. But again, when we talk about Society 5.0, when we're trying to create a system, like it says, for seamless customer travel experience, well, that sounds like, harmonization of data. Okay, here's another great example. And this is where I think you got the Janction plug. So, identity's role in the deepfake dilemma. I think a few times Hari even mentioned this, right? There's other researchers talk about this. So, again, August 5th, real recent. Notice lots of demand recently to share some of these things, share some of this news. Identity's role in the deepfake dilemma, adopting a multifaceted approach to identity authentication in a trust nothing era. All right, Jasmy is not just a part of that internet of trust, but they're also that internet of value. And, the proof of authority, right? So they hit all three of those, metrics. But the key thing is the fraud that is involved with deepfake, right? Synthetic media that has been digitally manipulated to impersonate a person. I mean, how many times have you guys seen Brad Garlinghouse, those fake ones, or, the CEO of Solana, or, Michael Saylor saying things about donating bitcoins and stuff like that. That's all fake. That's all deep fake. It's not real. So we need something that's going to solve that problem, basically, right? Absolutely. So, look at this. Trust nothing era. The role of explicit and implicit trust in identity. Implicit trust, or trust as we know it, fading away. As deepfakes compromise the identity authentication process, we can no longer trust anything we hear or see, even if it seems extremely realistic or accurate. Right, so you have to have a mechanism that's going to 100% verify that you are who you say you are, but more importantly, create a new mechanism to make it seamless and easy and without any problems, right? Because you have to have, and what does it say? Secondary method of authentication to validate what you're seeing and hearing is real and trustworthy. That's where blockchain comes along, my friends. DLT and so on. This is right up Jasmy's alley. They provide that solution. And some people say, well, there's other ones that provide a solution, Max. Yeah, but were they the first to become regulatory compliant in a country that has the most strictest regulations? Probably not. So, like it says, AI for good, fighting deepfakes with emerging technologies. Well, shout to Hara. Guess what? Janction, right? So they also meet that need. And that's our layer 2 for Jasmy. All right, back to the whole topic of Microsoft. Because as we know, they're entering into the biometrics game. And they had partners to expand Entra ID with Biometrics, FIDO2 and MFA. This was posted yesterday. Microsoft Entra ID has become a vocal point, or I should say focal point. Misspoke on that. Strategic partnerships aid at bolstering enterprise security. Think about that. Strategic partnerships, authentication methods, and this other part. Lots of talk about IDs. So digital IDs, Microsoft's position? Yes, Microsoft's position. So, that's also worth pointing out as well, right? So look at this. Keyless and Microsoft Entra ID collaborate. Think about this. I'm going to show you a citation about how we even plug in some of this terminology to Jasmy. How am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to take you to this. Shout out to our brother Neo X Tricks. Give him a follow at Bana817. A lot of you guys already are. Love Neo. He's the man. Great research, as usual. But like he says, the identification service using the Japanese My Number card linked to the Jasmy PDL platform is now available on the Apple App Store, right? Well, he's got screenshots. You see some of this right here. But basically speaking, here it is right from apps.apple.com/JP. What does it say? The app is available only on the Apple iPhone App Store. Jasmy PDL Identification Verification Service. Or I should say Jasmy PDL Identity Verification Service. Excuse me. identity verification using my number cards and collaboration with Jasmy PDL. Okay, and like it says, free. All right, and it kind of gives you a little breakdown, right, of how that works and so on. And we talked about some of these things, but it's there, and I'm glad that people are getting the word out. All right, let's take you over to Lil Bidman. Shout out to him. Always has great research. Give him a follow. Always follow these guys. They got fantastic research. It's one thing I love about the Jasmy research community. We're a consortium of researchers. So basically speaking, Jasmy information leakage countermeasures posted August 8 from Lil Bidman. What do we have here? He says, quote, just by installing it, you can take measures against information leakage in a remote work environment. Easy to realize, a simple user interface that even beginners can use. Information leakage countermeasures, right? So, interesting, right? And I love this statement because sometimes people do have some good statements in the comments. A lot of times people don't. Let's face, a lot of it's FUD. This is a legitimate good question. I mean, the guy's confused. I mean, there would be other people confused. It says, are PDL accessed through phone or secure PC or both? Very good question. Look at Lil Bidman's response. He accesses his PDL, personal data locker, on a phone from a PC, but he still uses Web 2 browsers or the Sega Tosu fan app to access it. And it has limited functionality. He's still waiting for the secure core devices to access Web 3 applications. Guys, keep in mind, if you're new to all this talk of Web 3 and so on, we're not at Web 3. We're at like Web 2.5, if that. He goes on to mention, as a Lil Bidman, iPhone Jasmy PDL app announcement is very good news and encouraging, but the PDL app is only rolled out in Japan for now. Right. We're not to that mass adoption yet. It's not 2026 yet, So, great response from Lil Bidman, but you can see and appreciate how they have countermeasures through the secure PC. That's part of their product. That's one of their many products, I should say. Handful of products. Let's get into the other thing. This is from Houston, another great researcher. Jasmine researchers 2 days ago, quote, CEO's Innovation Roundtable meeting. Kunitake Ando, director of Japan Innovation Network. And I'm going to talk about that specifically in a bit. But it's that kickoff. Why is that important? Well, basically, it's the whole idea that 39 industries and governments and academic leaders driving Japanese innovation meet at Candor Shrine. Again, innovators. As a result, it has or was agreed that high-level strategic cooperation between industry, government, and academia is now necessary for the future innovation in Japan, and that should be strongly urged by leaders in each field. As a first step in putting this into practice, participants agreed to launch the hub concept for an industry, academia, government innovation ecosystem. The establishment of Innovation Management Awards, was also announced. This roundtable will continue discussions over the next 3 to 5 years, aiming to contribute to the transformation of innovation, of course, in Japan. And where was that printed? It was printed on PR Times, and that was, again, August 8th. You do see Kunitake Ando there, and that's great. It's great to see some of these key things. Let's jump to the next part, because there's a lot of talks about biometrics. This is from integratedbiometrics.com. Now, here's something that's really interesting. Remember how I talked about Mannix earlier in the outline? Well, they leverage the strengths of existing LES technology. Mannix is the only compact mobile palm scanner on the market that can be powered by your mobile phones. Plus, the zero bezel technology used by Mannix removes the traditional bezel, allowing maximum flexibility and ease of use. But more importantly, do you know that this specific thing through biometrics is, for instance, officially, I guess you could say, certified by the Federal Bureau of Investigation? Think about that for a second. The IB family of FBI certified scanners, lightweight, mobile, accurate, integrated biometrics, offer a range of FBI certified fingerprint scanners that meet or exceed the FBI defined interoperability standards for high quality image capture and work with this thing called IAFIS and other databases. Think about this, guys. This is why I point out the whole thing of what's indirectly involved. Jasmine, what they're indirectly involved with. Because when you see terms like that, other databases worldwide, That's a big deal because we understand that Jasmy really shine in the whole thing of like CMOS image sensors and biometrics and on and on and on, especially with anything that comes to Internet of Things. And look at this. Here are some Internet of Things. So it's really interesting to see some of these recent postings and to get into some of the nitty gritty about this. All right, look at this. This is another good thing. Think about all the problems that we've had, especially here in the United States, about, for instance, you know, um, identifying the deceased, right? Especially like, I'm not trying to get political or anything like that, but um, people who were voters, but they're no longer with us, right? So it says identifying the deceased, August 1st, 2024. They have biometrics that will allow for people to identify the deceased. They often use fingerprints to identify the victims, but fingerprints are unique to each individual and do not change after death. Well, we can continue to read, but basically what I gathered was it mentions specifically that these systems, they have simplified it, right? Because they understand that biometrics make it a lot easier to verify who these particular people are, the deceased. Well, what about putting that on a blockchain, right? What about having that on a public ledger, right? That's the bottom line. Public and private ledgers, for that matter. All right, here's some more things I want to definitely get into because, here's, again, especially in the United States, we have a problem when it comes to the border, right? We have a border crisis. So all the way back in August 1st, 2022, this company called Integrated Biometrics provided frontline field identification to U.S. Customs Border Protection. Mobile fingerprint scanners assist U.S. Border Patrol agents amid the largest migrant surge in DHS history. Hey, guess what? Way worse now, right? But, like I said, fingerprints don't lie. And bottom line is, they need to even have things to be simple and quick and not having a huge line of people to verify who they are and so on. Well, if you can do it at the airports, you better believe that when we take things to the next level at the border, they're going to use innovative things like these particular devices. Well, that data needs to be collected in a proper way. And if anything, that needs to be properly handled without, again, back to the little Bidman outline, any type of leakage, right? Especially when it comes to that data. So Jasmy has a solution that provides a specific thing that would answer that need and want, right? Absolutely. And you were more than welcome to get more into that, but even they recognize it. So I mean, that's the US, customs and the border agents and so on. You better believe that's a big deal. That's a huge deal. That's supply and demand right there. Let's also share this. Okay? I don't like to talk about, the pandemic a lot, and a lot of you guys don't either, but you want to know something? It says, with LES, 90 to 99% of viruses were killed. Look what it says. May 11, 2023, the University of Missouri Laboratory for Infectious Disease Study finds technology used in widely deployed fingerprint scanners kills the virus that causes COVID-19. Wow, okay. So you have this thing in which, basically speaking, would somehow zap that? That sounds nuts. But apparently, according to this guy named Dr. Anderson, he has expertise that focus on the examination of contagious illnesses and comprehending the ways in which a virus spreads. He goes on to mention that the purpose of his investigation was to find out if there was results that would support his thesis of rapid identification through the use of biometric scanners. And basically, if you can have a thing in which you can eliminate some of these things, right? Obviously, like COVID. It says, after facing so many unknowns since the start of the pandemic, the findings announced today should ease public concern regarding transmission of COVID-19 via fingerprint scanning and in turn increase efficiency at checkpoints. So that sounds nuts, right? But it's, they claim that they can basically do some of these things. And, if you have this EL based, I jumped past over that, sorry. I read a lot. Anyway, this EL-based technology used in the fingerprint scanners, and it actively kills the coronavirus through the electric field. So I was right about that, right? I remember reading this. Creates during the collection process. So that field, interesting, right? And it says accurate fingerprint identification requires 2-second touch, after which more than 90% of the COVID virus, coronavirus, from an infected person during deposit, when it's deposited is killed. When combined with the 90% reduction during the next scan, protection against transmission between individuals increases to 99% or greater. Why am I mentioning this? Because as we know, action reaction. Think about Japan, for example. They were the most pro cash society. Then COVID happened, and then what happened? They took a radical shift. Again, supply and demand forces, guys. That's where it's at. We talk about this great reset and all this stuff, the fourth industrial revolution. Japan has absolutely embraced Web 3 because they realized they missed the boat of Web 2. That's always going to be the bottom line for them. All right, taking it to here. This is good stuff as well because it's going to connect it all. So as we get to here, I'm going to pull this up as well. And, we talk about some of these things about biometrics and so on, but it's kind of like a timeline, right? Of understanding, for example, how it all comes together, right? So this example, I want to show you this for example, of having, for example, fingerprint identification. Says the squad chose to integrate Biometrics Watson scanner as a critical component of its toolkit. Forensic science, sensors. Again, think about when Jasmy blasted off. So, processing times significantly reduced by the implementation of a biometric system for the bodies that are not too degraded. In the other cases, burned, mummified. I mean, can you imagine at some point even archaeologists using some of this technology, right? They're going to need a place to upload it, and that's pretty priceless data. All right, a little bit more about biometrics, and maybe you're getting tired of hearing about it, but I'm telling you flat out, lots of recent news in regards to this. So are we going to leverage some of this stuff? Absolutely. Integrated Biometrics has been the leading provider of fingerprint scanners for over 20 years. And again, if you're wondering about the FBI connection, they even have certifications. We talk about ISO 222, or talk about, for example, ISO 27001, the one that Jasmy recently is now ISO certified. Well, if you have even the FBI creating some certifications, you can also respect the plug to some of the biometric side of things, especially when it comes to Jasmy. All right, how about this? A little bit more about this. So I'm going to take you to this, and that is from Hara. Are you aware that Jasmy developed a new passwordless authentication solution? Think about this, guys. He posted this, Hara-san, back in July 31st of 2023. But man, does it pound home all the research we did tonight? To all members of the press, develops authentication solution that eliminates the need for ID and password entry. Does this not fall in line with the recent developments that you saw in the news I showed you in this outline? Absolutely it does. Look at this. Jasmy Inc. announced, at least last year, that developed that authentication solution that eliminates the need to enter IDs and passwords. And of course, the patent is this particular one, this long number, but it's called Technology for Security Using a Second Key. Now, earlier I talked about some of this. So this was acquired all the way back on March 1st of 2012, but they expanded on it. And they had a function. Jasmy's distributed ID. Think about it, guys. This is why I put so much emphasis on the whole thing of, my number card. So, provide a strong security through passwordless authentication. This will provide strong security through passwordless authentication. In addition, Through joint development with partner companies, this authentication solution can be incorporated into smartphone applications and wearable devices. I mean, I cover a lot about Quant. I also like the idea that, is this, to a sense, Japan's version of the Finternet, or are they also part of the Finternet? That's another deep dive in itself. So they have this whole solution, basically. But I like this citation. Again, from Hara, which is cool. When biometric information is used, biometric information can be registered, but the biometric information recorded is not registered in the authentication figure, but by providing a software development kit, because that's what SDK means, a web API authentication to the applications service providers, using this solution, it is possible to log into each application without entering IDs and passwords. Well, guess what? We already saw this. We already got news that they have solved this with what? Some of the tests they've done. U.S. Army, some of these airports, some of these other examples, heck, even Microsoft. So all those tests have come into fruition. To see Jasmy doing that years ago and expanding on it through guys like, for example, Didashi Morita, through his patents and so on, is profound. It's amazing. All right, let's get into this. Shout to our brother, I think it's IC Amphibian. Yep, IC Amphibian. I'm going to give this reference again. Jasmy patent breakdown. Why is this important? Because, you know how we talk about know your customer, KYC? Well, they have this other thing called KYM. And the reason I want to show you this is because it's called know your machine. So we talk about public keys, but like IC mentions here, what's important for our understanding is that when information encrypted using a predetermined secret key is written to a blockchain from the outside, the read/record unit may decode information written to the blockchain using a predetermined public key corresponding to the predetermined secret key and may be controlled according to the information. That's two keys. That's also cited in the white paper. And that also matches, or I should say, also matches up to the recent developments that we see in the outline. So if you're wondering, you're like, man, this is Greek to me. It's as simple as this, and I love that IC put it into layman's terms. Your public keys are generated from your secret keys. Your device is encrypting data with your secret key, but you can see it with your public key at the same time. Similar to the above, when you're running designated software, it refers to private keys instead of secret keys. Keys are explained further as he reads on. But basically speaking, you know, it references Borgs, but in the case where the mode of recording the transaction, because you guys want to see utility in motion, information is on the blockchain, a new 2 key can be created in the terminal device and written to the blockchain using 2 keys so that the wide range of applications can be expected. Well, I don't know, maybe like wide range of applications for like things that Microsoft use, the Army uses, the Metropolitan Police in the UK, things that we got over here in the United States. I mean, everything that we talked about tonight, this matches up. I know they can't, I'm not going to do a 3-hour deep dive, but the thing is this. I love this statement. More secure PC vibes. Yeah, absolutely. Seeing the whole idea of this machine ID is crucial because this is where you have the Jasmy plug. And look at this. This reveals that the Jasmy network can upgrade its hashing algorithm. It also shows that if passphrase being used in the generation. In blockchains, a transaction recorded by linking blocks of transactions in a chain. The transaction information may be hashed and written to a blockchain where hashing is performed. But the bottom line is, writing in the blockchain, it is possible that prevent falsification. Again, back to the beginning of the outline about the whole thing of fraud, right? Back to Lil Bidman with his example of leakage, okay? So Jasmy solves this problem. How so? Because they have toolkits built on Hyperledger Fabric and so on. And here's reference to machine ID. So first key is tied to machine ID, which is know your machine and embedded in the manufacturing process. Then your second keys generated from your first keys and machine ID. Again, so both your public and private second keys will work recording in the blockchain. It all comes together. I know it sounds a little technical, but that's where it's at. All right, I'm going to take you over to this particular part, and this is cited from the white paper. The main functions are as follows. functionality to connect devices registered on the network. Remember how we mentioned the other citation from all those ones from integrated biometrics and all those other citations from Biometrics update? That's how it all comes together. But it's that ability to have it registered on the network to their owners without additional personal identification using the secure knowledge communication function. And that citation back to KYM, because we have it all there. And Secure Guardian is Jasmy's unique technology that links the ID information to the owner using SKC and the ID information of the device itself. After going through a process of multi-factor authentication, the data generated by the device has a device log. Can be correctly linked to the owner. At the same time, the device owners and administrators can store device logs using a distributed network to prevent data from being leaked, falsified, or manipulated. That came full circle back to Lil Bid Man. So I know this is a lot to take in, but you know, some people have asked and said, I just want an example about Sony and Jasmy. Well, here it is. Vaio Secure PC, Japan's financial regulator, has a very high security requirement for the hardware devices, including computers used by financial service institutions. The high security computer is jointly developed by Jasmy and Sony Vaio. Notice it doesn't say, well, possibly. It says both of those in the same breath. You know, sometimes people just want to hear, oh, I want to hear the partnership. My opinion, that is it right there. Be widely used by who? Banks and other financial institutions. This can be combined with blockchain tech and Jasmy, Smart Guardian, or Secure Guardian, has realized the environment for safe use where only the device owner can enable it through bio-identification. See how it says that? Technology and personal password. Man, that aged really, really well, did it not? Absolutely, that came full circle. All right. What about Vaio? A little bit more. Here's an update. On August 1st, straight from Vaio.com, Vaio Corporation applied for registration in Nagano Prefecture. Interesting. Isn't Kunitake Ando the former, recently retired Dean of Education, or, you know, the big wig there? Absolutely. So look at this. They got this registration in the Nagano Prefecture, SDG's Promotion Company Registration System, a unique system in Nagano Prefecture that registers and promotes companies, and notice how it says companies, not just one, and other entities. Gee, I don't know, maybe like all the things we just talked about in this outline within the prefecture that are actively working to achieve SDGs. If you didn't know what that means, it's an acronym for, or abbreviation, of Sustainable Development Goals through corporate activities and other means, and was approved as a registered company for the 21st period on July 31st, 2024. Talks about them being a future city or society 5.0, but they're part of that goal of being, you know, getting to the goal of smart cities and so on. So that was a big announcement, and that's why I want to share that with you. Now, a little bit more about this, and I know I keep saying a little bit more, but I know my outlines can get really big, but look at this. This is good. This is from Telegraph long ago. It says from Kazumasa Sato. Jasmy is mainly created by the members of ex, you know, like they're from ex-Sony alumni. Goes on to mention that Kunitake Ando launched a Vaio Xperia, which is a smartphone, created Sony Life Insurance, and laid the foundation for the expansion to the current scale prior to becoming the 7th president of the Sony Corporation. Besides the activities to create ecosystem for innovation for Japanese companies, he also, like it says, chairman for the University of Nagano. Now, of course, here's the proof that he resigned. This is from Dip Metaverse. But the bottom line is, he will still be involved as an advisor to Nagano University. His replacement, who is Shinjiro Sato, came from medical solutions company Terumo, 30,000 employees, so on and so forth. But the bottom line is Teromo is a Japan Innovation Network member. That was a great find. Great find from Dip Metaverse, right? So, Japan Innovation Network. We're going to get into a little bit of that in a little bit. Before we do so, if you go to Jasmy Global Medium, it talks about the whole thing about how Vaio, formerly the PC department of Sony Corporation, was established all the way back in July 1st, 2014, but they were headquartered at Izumino, Nagano Prefecture, and the company provided planning, design development, manufacturing, and sales of PC business and contract businesses and related services. Again, that aged well too. All right, more talk about the KPI targets, right? So, as we know, like it says, they have KPI targets and they want to achieve this, and they want to achieve the goal of 100,000 registered users in Japan as quickly as possible. I think that's going to be easily done. Followed by 7 million, ultimately aiming for 107 million. Initially, they will ensure compliance with regulations, been there, done that, secure users, leverage those services and apps that emerge within the user base, acquire users in the Asia and American regions. Again, American regions. I didn't make that up. That's from the research. All right. Look at this. This is from php.cn. Talks a little bit more about Kunitake Ando. So it says that, he's a chairman of Sony Financial Holdings, chairman of Sony Life Insurance, like I mentioned, Japan chairman of the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry's top talent research. Currently, he is the director of Japan Innovation Network. And again, back to the whole thing in Nagano Prefecture. All right, here's Japan Innovation Network. Here's why I'm citing this for you guys. It says, we provide first-class solutions developed within our global network. Innovating from within an existing organization is difficult regardless of countries. But were you aware that this JIN, which is Japan Innovation Network, established a collaborative network with countries around the world involved in the field of innovation management systems? Think about that. What is Jasmy? It's definitely a management system, is it not? So they've been working closely with them. And of course, they're leveraging ISO standards. I mean, shoot. Kunitake Ando, part of Bajit, they had an ISO standard. They still do. So Jasmy realizes ISO. So does Ando-san. But the bottom line is this graph, or chart, I should say. I'm going to take you to this. Let's blow it up a little bit bigger. So it says the content of the organization. Believe it or not, in my opinion, this is where Jasmy sits right in the middle of this thing. So why is this a big deal? Because innovation processes that validate a hypothesis via trial and error. They have an intent, create concepts. Well, maybe a concept to connect everything by democratizing data, develop solutions. Again, Jasmy is part of that solution. It says identity, opportunities, validate concepts, and deploy those solutions. You better believe this is part of that whole thing. We should put Jasmy right in the middle of that. All right, I'm going to take it to the last bit of this, because I know, this is quite the outline, and I get it, So, we got to talk about some of the objectives and goals of Japan Innovation Network. They look to accelerate the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, by utilizing know-hows and technologies of Japanese corporations. Now, they had this thing called SHIP, which is that abbreviation that we talked about before, but look at all the things that are part of this. Private corporations, government, public agencies, specialists, business organizations, mass media, universities, again, Nagano. I'm telling you flat out, see how it all comes full circle? So this was developed all the way back in 2016, but they have a close collaboration with ecosystem members. Again, what's indirectly involved? SHIP provides programs and product support for development of business models addressing achievement. UNDP is a founding partner of SHIP after, of course, April 2023. Check this out. It gets even better. Why is that? Because this thing of SHIP, recognizes the SDGs as an innovation opportunity. SHIP is an open innovation platform connecting corporate know-hows and technologies with SDGs related issues and needs. Again, was indirectly involved. That is huge. Okay, look at this for example. So when we go over here, just in case some people weren't aware of it, here's the Japan Innovation Network. Here's their board members if you click on the team section. And if you go further down, you see Kunitake Ando is a director. He's not president. He doesn't need to be president of everything. But he's a director. He sits on that board, right? He's definitely one of the main plugs and connects for Jasmy, but he works in so many different sectors. He's going to help them get the job done. All right. This aged well as well. April 3rd, 2024. How Jasmy Coin's partnership with Microsoft and Amazon impacts its market value. Now, some people are going to say, you never got an official, announcement from Microsoft and Amazon. Right. It's what's indirectly involved. So in short, Jasmy Coin, like it says, partnerships with Microsoft and Amazon elevates its market value by enhancing data security, blockchain development, including, or ensuring, I should say, regulatory compliance, leading to 540% increase in trading volume. At least, when Jasmy went to 4.4 cents. So, yeah, but here, it's Azure, guys. Data democratization, collaboration with Microsoft and Azure services, including data sharing, Explore tools, enhances Jasmy's offerings in real-time data sharing, secure data exploration, pivotal for Jasmy's market value. Of course. And if anything, just in case some people forgot about this stuff, this is, I believe, originally from IC Amphibian, or actually, maybe not him. I apologize, IC, if you're listening to this. Dip Metaverse shared this as well. Other people shared as well. I don't know. That's just the main person I saw originally. So shout out to whoever it was that originally posted this. But look what it says. Cooperation, development of devices and databases. Microsoft and Intel. Okay. So you see Vaio and Sony. Collaboration. Again, it's not that it's a direct partnership, but it's what's indirectly involved. Some places state that that's a partnership. Doesn't necessarily mean it is. All right, this is a screenshot from our fellow brother Houston, okay? Other people will share the screenshot, but, I gotta give him credit because he circled this. If you go to Microsoft.com, what's interesting is, as we know, back in April, and I've shared this before, but I realize a lot of new people. Microsoft invests what? US dollars of $2.9 billion in AI and cloud infrastructure in Japan while boosting the nation's skills, research, and cybersecurity. Again, this is where Janction really going to shine. Of course, you see Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. You see, for example, some of these other people. You see, Rahm Emanuel, so on, because he's an ambassador to Japan. And you see, for example, president of, Microsoft Japan, who is Miki Susaka. So, that's worth pointing out as well. All right. At the end of the day, you guys are wondering, where do I come up with some of these, things, right? And I can't blame you. So, I'm going to share this with you. This is from LifeWire, Tech for Humans. Why is this important? Tech giants like Facebook and Amazon use biometric data for everything from tagging you in a photo by recognizing your face to purchasing items without cash or a card. However, our biometric data is extremely valuable since it's unique to us. Experts say the more it is used, the more it could become compromised and we have to pay the price, right? So think about how much money those companies made, how they became worth, billions and billions of dollars. Because data, as the saying goes, the new oil. Keeping our biometric data security is extremely important since ultimately it would be the ones paying the price if our fingerprints are compromised. Haber said there's a place for using biometric in the future, but we must tread lightly. I do believe biometrics is the future, but it should not just be stored in a single database with bad encryption. Think about Jasmy. Don't they supply that want and need? Don't they provide a solution? They absolutely do, especially being the first to be regulatory compliant in Japan. All right, a little bit more about this. This is the tail end. I always say a little bit more, but it's a long outline, but it's been a while since I've done an outline with you guys with Jasmy. Biometric system. This is from PR Newswire. You guys want new news? This is PR Newswire. This is good stuff as well. August 7th, 2024. Why is this important? Well, it states here that market of a biometric system market, think about that, worth $84.5 billion by 2029. Exclusive report by Biometric market, those expectations be valued at $47.2 billion by 2024. We're in 2024. And it's projected to reach $84.5 billion by 2029. Expected to grow at a CAGR, which, if you don't know what that means, is compound adjusted growth rate of 12.3% from 2024 to 2029, according to a new report. Interesting. Increasing integration of biometrics in consumer electronics is fueling the growth of the biometric system market. You know, I cover a lot of other particular tokens and coins, and we always talk about, like, you know, like with Quant being part of a centralized marketplace, right? Well, how about Jasmy being part of a biometric system market? Yeah, that's a big market. All right. Here is the moment that you all been finally waiting for, right? Yes, I'm back into the frame. Big numbers, right? So this is again from PR Newswire. Hear me out on this. This is good stuff. So in this, it talks about specifically this statement right here. Actually, it's not PR Newswire. It's actually from NASDAQ. I apologize. So if you go to NASDAQ.com and you looked at understanding the biometric payment systems landscape, this is what's going to come up with. They have a reference / citation from Juniper Research. And I've cited them before. Juniper Research is no joke. They found that biometrics will authenticate over 3 trillion of payment transactions in 2025. Wow. That's an increase of 650% from the 404 billion authenticated in 2020. And that's according to Good Intelligence. Global biometrics are expected to reach, yeah, you read that right, $5.8 trillion and more than 3 billion users by 2026. And we're wondering if Jasmy can hit 107 million users on the PDL. Yeah, I think that was extremely conservative. Here's a little bit more of these figures. Biometric cards combine the embedded chip technology, biometric authentication technologies to verify cardholders' identity for in-store purchases. What do we see already when it comes to some of these things? The global biometric card market expected to grow from 370 million in revenue in 2024 to 18.4 billion in 2029, represent compounding growth rate of a whopper 117.6%. My God, right? So there's some big numbers here. All right. So bottom line is this. What is 2% of 5.8 trillion? Well, it's 116 billion. Now, some of you guys are going to say, basically speaking, Max, for crying out loud, let me pull up some branding here. You usually use 1% example, especially in your quant videos. I do. But what do we know when it comes to Jasmy? Well, IoT. They're IoT everything, basically. And they're definitely going to stand out when it comes to biometrics. So I think it's more than safe and conservative to say 2%. All right, check this out for a second. So at 2% of 5.8 trillion, it comes out to be $116 billion. All right, let's take over to coin market cap, for example, okay? So basically speaking, we're going to share this as well. What one would be close to this? All right. At the time I made this, it was Tether. Now, this is a stable coin, I get that. But the bottom line is, when I first was researching this, this was at roughly 117 billion, so it kind of dropped a little bit. But this is the closest it comes to it. And you see the market cap, fluctuates. It fluctuates between 115 and 118 billion. Okay? But, you have a circulating supply of 115 billion of Tether. All right, so I plugged in some of these figures, and I went to market cap of. Show the price of A with the market cap of B. Jasmy. All right, this is the current price of Jasmy with a market cap of USDT, which is Tether. Okay, and we get this. $2.39. That's 108.82x. The point I'm trying to make is that Jasmy will do $2.39 off of this sector alone, right? Off of what? Just in case you forgot, it is biometric authentication. Over 3 trillion of payment transactions in 2025 alone. It could increase at 650%. And global biometric payments expected, I'll show you again, to reach 5.8 trillion and more than 3 billion users by 2026. Again, guys, this is why I state that, are you paper handing Jasmy? Was it $1 to $3? 1787 KPI target. More like 30, like, Dip Metaverse has mentioned a while back in that interview and so on. So that's where it's at for me. When I think of IoT everything, Jasmy has to be connected to it. And those examples we got before are still great examples. I know this is quite the deep dive. Went way over, longer than I wanted it to go. But the bottom line is this. Everybody can hit the pause button. Come back to it later. But what I was going to state is, if you haven't seen that original video, it's shorter. It's still a long deep dive. It's going to be towards the upper right-hand side of the screen. And that was the original video where we talked about some of these KPI targets and so on. So you'll see Depth Metaverse on that Jasmy 8-year recording. There's also Brian, who's an ambassador and so on. And they get more into the nitty-gritty of that. So that's where it's at for me. I look at this as being a long-term hold, of course. I'm not going to give you guys any financial advice because it's not financial advice, just my own key research. But I was glad to bring this to you guys. I want people to understand how the math adds up. Some people still say that it doesn't, and that's okay. It's just my own personal opinion. You may not agree with it. At the end of the day, that's where it's at for me. Off this sector alone. And we talked about other particular sectors, like you guys saw the other one, about, was it 73 cents off another particular sector? So, I mean, you start adding some of this stuff up, and basically speaking, Jasmy is one of the best examples of utility in motion. So glad to finally come back, do another deep dive with you guys in regards to Jasmy. As the saying goes, know what you hold, know why you hold it. The research trumps FUD 110%. We'll see you on the next one. Like, comment, subscribe if you haven't done so. And by all means, if you need cold storage, check out the Decent Wallet ad coming up here soon. We'll see you. Have a good one. Thank you.
If managing your crypto feels like solving a puzzle, it's time to switch to Decent Wallet. Say goodbye to complicated setups and hello to Decent Wallet, the hassle-free solution to your digital currency needs. With just a few taps, you can manage, track, and secure your crypto with unmatched ease. And here's the best part. Grab your Decent Wallet at a discounted price by using the referral link below. Don't miss out on making your crypto experience smoother and more secure.